In the model series, I've talked about what they do, the more complex things about them, how they fare in the stages, and against the enemies and bosses in their games. Every model has been covered, so what's there left to do? Put them on a tier list, of course. Hello, today, I'll be ranking the models of the Mega Man ZX series from worst to best, but if you've been keeping track of my posts in recent videos, you would know I'm not doing this alone. I've gotten a bunch of people from my Discord server to help out as well. You'll see them later on. I couldn't get some models covered by other people, so I'll be doing those myself. For the people who will talk about them though, their socials will be in the description if they wanted any. Here's a quick rundown of the rules, so you know exactly how they're being ranked. We'll be ranking all of the models covered in the model series, some Model X, ZX, H, P, L, F, OX, A, and A, which will be called Model Ancient for the rest of the video. The ZX and Advent versions of the human forms will be included as well. This gives a total of 11 models to rank. Composite rules will be used, so Model ZX, for example, will be ranked with its ZX and Advent versions in mind. That's it for the rules. But as a little disclaimer, not everyone who took part in this video gave me voiceovers or an edited video to work with. In the case of giving me just text, I'll be saying what they said, so for everyone who joins, their names will be in the top left corner of the screen. But you've waited enough by now, let's rank the models in the Mega Man ZX series from worst to best. D tier is where the models are at their worst. There's only one model in this tier, and it should be obvious which one.
Mega Man ZX Human is obviously worthless. It has no methods of attack, and the one unique attribute it has over the models is the fact that it can crouch and float above water. Compared to every other form you can take in the series, even the dogshit ones, like, at least they can do shit. Like, Model Ancient has sliding and is very small, and the ZXA Human has a gun. The X does not have that courtesy. So yeah, it's kind of obvious why it's in D tier. Like and subscribe, yeah.
C tier is where the models start getting better. Granted, not by much. These two are still not good, but they can shoot, and that's a big enough buff to move them up a tier. The order of these two should be clear cut, so let's not waste more time here.
Howdy, it's me, Retrodark the Wizard Person, and I was bribed to be here, so I'll speak on matters very important to me. The classic Reploid human base form from ZX Advent. What else is there to say? It's how you start the game and are introduced to its controls. You can choose from the Bald Boy or the Pirate Lady. You have the basic jump, shoot, crouch, and crawl. You cannot climb on walls and you cannot dash. You are entirely normal. But unlike the original ZX, ZX Advent lets the normal form show off their Second Amendment rights, which instantly makes them more useful than the ZX humans. The characters have different stats this time, with Gray favoring rapid fire and Ash having stronger bullets. So that means they can actually be used to fight things that can be used in normal levels to a decent extent. Their guns cannot charge, but I actually found that a bit fun compared to the other models. Its simplicity is what I like. It's not too simple like the ZX humans, it's just enough to get the job done. The only unique movement option is the crouching like the original ZX, which I do love, even if it's only prominently used in Gray's intro stage. Meh. The crawling and crouching are just not nearly enough to make up for the lack of wall climbing and dashing. And that's actually the main thing limiting the normal forms here. They simply cannot move enough through normal stages properly. But that's not too bad considering they are meant to give you a limited way to learn the game at the start, instead of giving you everything at once. So they serve their purpose of the game and the Mega Man idea of getting stronger over time. A neat detail I also liked was that the normal models float while literally everyone else sinks or swims, sort of. Not much else. In terms of usability, it's still the worst in ZX Advent, but not the worst in the entire ZX series.
Model Ancient still has an issue or two that the human forms have, but it's an actual model now. While kicking and sliding give mobility and speed far above those forms, in its short size can let you low profile some attacks. Being able to be in the water does help too, as you won't be stuck doing nothing. However, its mobility is nowhere near that of the other models here. While its ground speed is comparable, its air speed is still pretty bad, so jumping over even moderately sized gaps could be pretty challenging, and some need a wall to be doable. The Buster is the same as the ZX Advent human Reploid form, so it's still pretty bad there. While the buffs can't get it to B tier, it does place higher. B tier is where the models start getting pretty good, and man, it's a big jump. They have noticeable flaws for sure, but they do enough to make you actually want to use them, and have a bunch of reasons for being good. This tier has 4 models, by far the biggest tier on this list, an equal size to the A and S tiers combined. We're gonna be here for a little while, and the placements won't be obvious, so enjoy the biggest, and probably the most controversial, tier on the list. Model P's pretty cool. It has good movement in the form of shadow dashing in ZX, in Hang and Wedge, the former being more reliable generally in giving new openings, although it does require overdrive to use. Hang and Wedge is a lot more situational and opens up some new areas, but is good when you can use it. The kunais are very spammable, are nice combo openers, and do good damage, especially with the overdrive boost in ZX. In the aerial version could cover a lot of angles, however in boss fights you do have to be point blank to use them best. The kunai spread in Advent is a little worse, since they go in more diagonal angles, but it's a minor issue. Shuriken is by far Model P's best move. It does great damage, you can use the loop to extend combos on bosses, and do damage stacking against mini bosses, and in CX, it can kill enemies while you shadow dash through them. It's worse in Advent since it's a level 2 charge, so kunais can't truly combo into it. Both shields are good but struggle in different ways. The ZX shield does more damage in the boss department and defends better against weak projectiles, while the Mandala Star in Advent does low damage to bosses, and is worse against weaker projectiles, since the shurikens are always consumed if hit by one, but is better offensively against enemies, and it can defend against most projectiles. The radar kunai in Advent exists, being very niche, and the same can be said for the radar scanner, only being useful in dark areas or fighting secrets. It's down here because Advent hit it the hardest out of any of the models that were in ZX1. No overdrive, worse or shuriken, you can't even access it as Ash, and no shadow dash. Even though it's pretty good in CX1, being a very strong model when you know how to use it well, Advent drags it down so much it has to end up here. So Model X is a little bit underutilized in this game, serving more as a story tutorial for A, what it's talking about, and B, how to play the game. Now, it is a good tutorial model for how ZX plays. As Model X, you can do the typical X stuff, Mega Buster, dash, wall jump, and kill weak enemies in 1 to 2 charge shots. It also has the weaknesses of X himself, mainly being his non-existent melee and inability to angle shots, like with all of the X games. We don't talk about X7 on this channel. It's got subpar damage in relation to the others when it comes to bosses, but it's decent enough for the early game. It quite literally gets replaced by Model ZX, making it only relevant in the early game. It also can't crawl, teaching you to not discredit your human form. Now with all of that said, it should deserve B tier. It's got a role in the game, it's just forgotten as you wander the halls of once was. Model A, the model you get in Advent after the intro stage of either Grey or Ash. Canonically based on Master Albert, but based on Axel by the developers themselves, which means that you can transform into various pseudoroids in Mega Man. That does however mean that you technically only play as one biometal, and you just imitate the other ones, but meh, who cares. This model doesn't have a ZX equivalent, much like Model OX in ZX itself, which has no ZX Advent equivalent. As with other biometals in Advent, the gameplay of this model changes between who you play as. The primary difference would be the charge shot. As Ash, you get a laser looking beam that hovers through the enemies and bounces off of every wall, while as Grey, you get a charge shot akin to one that you would see in the X series. Personally, I prefer Ash's laser shot as it can genuinely be great when you miss a shot or if you're not high enough to attack the enemy or the boss. Hell, it can even be a decent alternative to a vertical shot or some other biometals if you were to shoot, and you have walls nearby. The only thing that I would say is better with Grey's laser shot is that sometimes due to the bouncing you can't end up shooting the wrong thing, which for example can end up being a pin in Ouroboros. Model A additionally has a homing shot, with which you can attack multiple enemies at once within a close enough distance. As Ash, you have more distance horizontally with it, and more distance vertically as Grey. Homing shot also deals less damage, however it can be an amazing tool, since you can hit multiple enemies at once which are not close enough to each other to be destroyed with a simple laser shot. And it's also nice as you can wall jump without knockback the whole time, as you're technically attacking the whole time you're using it. Model A is extremely great whenever you need to kill several enemies at the same time, or shoot at multiple targets, as for example with Albert's last phase. Additionally, this model has Giga Crush, which is pretty much what it's called. It kills a bunch of enemies on the screen, although it's basically useless against bosses as they don't really take any damage. It can be very useful when you are in a clutch, and you need to shoot nearly all enemies on the screen. I never had that happen even once when playing for the game, so I pretty much never use Giga Crush. If I would give this biometal personal rank, then I would probably give it mid to high B, as it's not really anything out of the ordinary. But it's also far from the worst option you can have in CX Advent, considering that you have pseudoroids that barely move unless you are under certain conditions, or ones that are pretty much immobile due to various quirks they have, so I consider the ranking on the tier list pretty fair. This is also the first biometal you get in the game, and you can't beat the whole game with only Model A. There's nothing that prevents you from doing so except your own will. I played through a good portion of the game as Model A until I unlocked Model ZX, so in my opinion, this is a pretty decent biometal, with which you can get through the game without any hassles and even enjoy doing so.
A biometal based on the Mega Man Zero character, Fairy Leviathan. Model L grants the user the halberd. Notably, not like the actual weapon itself. LX is very simple, as its main attack is just 2 slashes you can chain one after another on bosses and stages. LX has the Ice Platform, which adds extra mobility, and Ice Dragon, which is a homing attack that deals 10 damage. That's super great, and can even have damage stacking when you do it close range. Ice Sticker can be broken for a nice spread around the screen, but the attack itself is fairly weak, even if it's broken or not. In addition, Model L is also immune to being frozen. Very nice. In their performance towards bosses, LX and Model L are average for the games they are in. Model L is capable of killing bosses fast due to their double slash combo being extremely short, even without weakness abuse. LX can go much faster than Model L. This is due to Overdrive doubling Model LX's damage compared to Model L just having the same base 1 damage. However, both can kill bosses in about 20 seconds. 20 seconds is actually really good, by the way. Let's look at this combo chart on screen. Model LX does the best on its electric bosses and worse on fire bosses, because of L having a stronger base air slash. But it's still ultimately weaker than Model LX on most bosses. Overdrive can make LX up to 4 times stronger than what L can do at its very best, because of both the double damage and the ice weakness damage stacking. However, having the quick charge ship and magic pumpkin help for both models and increases their damage or ability to stun electric bosses, making them deal damage to bosses much easier than before. Still, both variants of Model L and LX are good at killing bosses well and easy. Also fast. To conclude, Model L is a solid 4. However, in both CX games, it is terribly overshadowed anytime it's on dry land. Forms like Egg Chest is better in damage and mobility within Mega Man ZX. And ZX, FX, and PX are better on neutral bosses and any other boss that isn't electric bosses. Stage-wise, LX doesn't even stand out, as it might have mobility, but it also lacks range and therefore struggles with enemies that are dangerous to come close to. It's even worse for Model L. By the time you get it, it only has 3 stages to shine. Within these 3 stages, it's as effective at fighting bosses as Model A unless it's an electric boss. And Model A can fight bosses much easier than with Model L. After these 3 stages, Model ZX has better damage against even electric bosses and does better in stages. And if you want water, you can still use Chrono Force for more protection. But hey, Model L is still a good model. It's just terribly overshined by everything else in Mega Man ZX or Mega Man ZX Advent. Bye.
A-tier models are really strong, and don't have any major flaws or weaknesses. It's just that they aren't overpowered and broken in every category like the top 2 models are, so these 2 land here. This is what I call the last balance tier, and even then that may be a bit of a stretch, so enjoy them while we still can.
A little background. Model F has always been my least favorite. I have jokingly referred to it as Model F tier for quite a while. I wasn't super excited when I got chosen to cover it. And then I saw the light. Hey, Tran! Model F in both the ZX and Advent is a beast for levels. It boasts maybe the fastest shots because of the double busters. And the path edit is niche, but it's good in some cases. It can help a lot. For boss fights, it's not great. It's pretty mid overall. Mainly due to the lack of overdrive in Advent. In ZX, it's pretty solid. But it really comes down to the combo count. The fact that the combo count is basically like nothing. Like, it's literally one shot, two shot. And the charge shot being so close range is not good for it, like, at all. It does have the projectile, but that takes double the charge time and also is kind of hard to hit with. And doesn't lead to anything, so its combo count is just not good. It's obviously good against what's weak to it, ice. But, wow, shocker! Breathing stops you from suffocating! When I first tried Model F, I really didn't get it. It felt very immobile because of the lack of being able to shoot and move at the same time, but dash jumping greatly, like incredibly negates that. You can actually move quite well with it. Personally, I still think A tier is a bit high, and I would like to say that when they were doing the discussions in the call, I was playing at a Project Plus bracket, which I won. So, I wasn't included in this conversation, but personally I'd put it high B tier. I think compared to other models, it is simply outclassed in most situations. Model ZX is obviously much better close up. Its movement isn't as good as Model H. And range-wise, I mean, it's good. It is one of the best, but personally, I would choose X or A over it. But I still think it's a great model. It's definitely better than PX and LX, so A tier, personally, too high for me, but I understand. Alright, I would like to thank Phoenix for the opportunity to, be a part of this. It's a bit of an honor. This has been Banana Frosty, signing off. Find me on my YouTube, my Twitter, wherever you want to find me.
Model ZX has pretty much everything a model could want, really. Its saber is really strong, able to kill most enemies quickly, especially with reversals. It has good coverage from most angles, other than most air enemies, but a charged saber or rolling slash do a fine enough job there. Its buster is also really strong. Not as strong as Model X's double charge shot, but still powerful enough to take care of most enemies. It helps cover aerial enemies from far away. It's directly buffed in Advent. The biometal gauge doesn't matter too much for it, and the new moves it gains are nice. Rising Feint is good against enemies above you, and provides helpful range with the saber, and Fission can cover both sides on the ground, although the rocks have short range. It's very strong against enemies and mini-bosses. It's not as strong as Model F in the mini-boss department, but still very effective, and it's great against bosses in both games. All of its attacks use the null element, so all damage done is the same. Many of its options have high damage, like the charged moves, triple slash, and especially the rolling slash, as theoretically it can hit enough times to take out any boss in the series. Not relying on biometal gauge, especially in CX1, also helps, as you'll always have that damage output at all times. The only flaws this model has is no unique movement options, and being outclassed by Model X, which I'll cover in the S tier. While it's pretty good in ZX1 for sure, the general power level in that game is pretty high, so ZX feels balanced there, but due to all Guardian models losing overdrive, which they either relied on or were really helpful for them, Model CX really gets the shine due to the lower power level, making it by far the best option against bosses, and the best model in ZX Advent. Advent is mostly carrying its place, but for staying a consistent and powerful option in both games, it deserves its spot here. These last two models are just overpowered, not much else to say. They have good attacks for every situation, and are excellent options against almost every enemy, mini-boss, and boss in their games. If they do have any flaws, they essentially don't matter, since their kits regardless are broken. Let's just finish the show already. Model OX is just a better Model ZX, and that's barely an exaggeration. Outside of overdrive, it has the exact same moveset, its buster deals less damage, but that's it. Where this model gets overpowered is in Overdrive, which lasts forever. You have a double charge shot and a very spammable buster. Pressing or holding down gives you free moves that cover a lot of area, 2 of them being essentially screen nukes, free elemental moves that are really good, although Arc Blade isn't as great in the damage department, but covers the screen of projectiles. You actually have a move for every situation, and that's great. Also, it's the same speed on ground and water. There's no need to explain how it does against enemies and mini bosses, all of them can be easily dealt with. As for bosses, it's overall the best one in the series. While it's not as good as Model H against fire bosses, it's really good against every single one. A majority of its moveset being shared with Model CX helps a lot, as there's Rolling Slash, but Overdrive and the elemental moves make that even crazier, as all elemental bosses have their weaknesses exploited. However, some moves are replaced when you go into Overdrive, like Rolling Slash. As such, turning Overdrive on and off is key to playing Model OX well, giving it a pretty high skill ceiling, which isn't a big issue, but since you will be turning it on and off, it can be annoying. It's something you can get around though if you're good enough, but it's still important to mention. For lack of a better term, the flaws are going to be very short. No unique movement options does hurt it a bit, and turning Overdrive on and off can be annoying. These are very, very minor flaws. Not enough to keep it out of S tier, but enough to keep it from being number 1.
Model H, Model H, Model H. Back when I first played through the CX games when I was younger, my favorite model was Model P. Because of his design, since a design like that is very attractive to a teenager. But after replaying through the Zero and the CS games through the Legacy Collection, oh boy did that thought change. Model H was probably my most used model in both CX and in Advent, mainly because of its mobility. Like, damn, this boy can schmoove. Model H made traversing through these games a breeze, especially in Advent, where you get them soon after being stuck with the 8 trans bosses for so long. Of course, strength-wise, it definitely isn't the best, since Model O exists in CX, even if it is endgame. And in Advent, we have CX itself, but still, that mobility just cannot be beat. Plus, it being inspired by what is probably the best character in the Zero franchise, or at least my personal favorite, Harpuya, is something that just cannot be ignored. They really gave our boy the best representation he could have gotten, and the one he deserved. Unlike Model L.
Editing Phoenix here, I just want to go over Model H's power, as she didn't go over it too much in her segment. There's no need for me to explain it, I'll just show off some clips. And that's the Mega Man CX models tier list. Here's an image of it if you want to look. I can't thank all of you enough. All of you who took part in the video, contributed to the tier list, and watched this video, thank you. For fun's sake, here's my personal list, the list with the CX and Advent form split, and a list with the Pseudoroid forms. Pause if you want to look at any of them. That's it for me. My next video, and the final video of the model series, will be just me talking about it, with an announcement about the future of this YouTube channel. Again, thank you to everyone who contributed to it, and I'll see you again with the final video of the model series.